You're listening to the iRacers Lounge podcast, where we discuss everything iRacing in a casual setting. Enjoy. Welcome to the iRacers Lounge. I am your host, Mike Ellis. iRacers Lounge is a podcast for the iRacer, where we talk all things iRacing in a casual setting. Joining me are the usual characters, Brian McCubbin.
Hey everybody, how you doing this week?
All right, David Hall.
Hey.
Greg Hectus.
I'm here, but not here.
All right, Kyle Pendergraft.
I'm feeling dirty this week.
Dirty. And Tony Groves.
What up, fellas?
Well, let's get dirty. The eNASCAR iRacing Coke Series gets dirty for the first time ever at Bristol Dirt, and we'll cover all those highlights from a wild night of racing with the voice of eNASCAR Evan Pasocco. Which NASCAR legend is recuperating an injury with iRacing? And could the days of grossly overpaying for that new graphics card finally be over?
And remember, you can follow along with us on your PC or mobile device in real time as you listen to the show and see for yourself all of these great topics and products we'll discuss by visiting iRacersLounge.com and selecting show notes. So we'll hope to see you there.
Want to swap to hydraulic pedals, but you're worried about leaks? We want to take a moment and tell you about the SimCoach's P1 Pro pedals. Their proprietary no-leak technology ensures all fluids stay inside where they belong. They completely redesigned the hydraulic cylinders found on typical pedals and made them spec for sim racing. Designed, machined, and assembled right here in the USA, you can have confidence what you'll get is quality. Backed by their lifetime warranty, there's no reason not to give them a look. Head over to simcoaches.com and use code iRacersLounge at checkout to save 10% off your total order. Go do it now.
We're going to kick off the topic session with a tweet from I scrolled up and scrolled back down. From the Australian Grand Prix. VRS had a booth set up at the Australian Grand Prix. The race goers were able to drive VRS rigs as well as the real drivers, including the F2 champion and F1 reserve driver Oscar Piastri.
Nice work on the name.
Yeah, well done, David.
Some nice setups too.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So they have three identical 80/20 rigs with triple monitor setups, and I'm sure they're using their own wheelbase and pedals. It's a really nice setup. It's really cool to see these things showing up at even international tracks now in Australia.
And you can tell they know how to set up their FOV with those triples, right?
You got them really close, right behind the wheelbase, and I also noticed the computer is right behind the center. Like it's a mini tower. It's not even a regular sized tower. And I'm thinking, okay, what kind of graphics card fits into that runs triples? I don't know. Pretty cool though. Three of them, and there's a line of people to try it out, or people watching. I would say there's a group of at least 24 people there, mingling and trying to get their hands on this VRS setup. So pretty cool to see it at an F1 race.
I'd like to see what wheel they're using. The triple monitors are kind of obscuring, blocking the view of what wheel they're actually using. Does VRS have a Formula style wheel? I don't remember seeing one from them. Do they?
I think they have one of both. Yeah.
If you click through the images, the fourth image, you can see the rim. It's a Formula style rim.
Oh yeah, I see. You can click to the right and left there, Brian, at the edge of the picture. Yeah, pretty neat. I'm impressed by the small computer, actually.
Well, I don't think any of us participated, but Nuremberg was this weekend in iRacing. Kyle, have you taken a look at some of these stats?
No, actually, I have not, to be quite honest. Anybody else know more than I would know right now?
Well, IPOP opened GT3. 942 teams participated. That's pretty high for this race. I think this is one of the lesser popular, if that's a word, lesser popular of the 24-hour events, just because the track is so hard to learn.
I was actually on the way home in the middle of listening to one of the other podcasts that we did the swap with lately, and they were talking about their experience. I was right in the middle of them. They wrecked out.
Later in the show, we're going to be talking about a listener submission that shows us some really cool ways to learn a really complicated track like Nürburgring. So we'll be talking about that a little later. It's a really neat submission from a show listener.
That'll be handy. But even like what else is that big? Le Mans, right?
Mount Washington.
Or okay, yeah, all right, yeah. I mean, it definitely took days, I would say, to actually finally get to where I could sort of just feel comfortable making a lap at Nuremberg when I thought I was going to have to run it. Learning something, getting at least familiar with something like Monza or Le Mans, not quite that challenging.
I like to bring this up. I mean, even though we don't participate, because iRacingReports.com does a great job with stats. I mean, Rob Crouch has always done good year over year, providing us good stats, and now he's got it on his own website. I also love to look at who got the Grand Chelem. And I don't know if that's a term that he came up with or if that's a term in racing, but what it means is you won the pole position, you won the race, you had the fastest lap, and you led every lap. And I was looking at the 992 Cups guys, and there's two people that got the Grand Chelem.
There was one in the GT3s.
So if you race in these events, this is a must look at to kind of examine, see if your team won any of the or got mentioned anywhere, because there's all kinds of different things that he tracks here. It's kind of neat.
Now, this stat is actually interesting, at least on the GT3 board. Usually, just because of sheer size, when you throw all of the USA clubs together, they are bigger than the other clubs. DEATSH, that's Denmark, and what other two countries? Or CH?
Germany, isn't it?
No, I think Germany gets their own.
Oh,
but it's right in that area though. Basically, Central Europe had 1,100 participants versus just 700 from USA in that class. All right. Well, this one is a little bit interesting. Brian, I think we've talked a little bit about this, but there's going to be the skip. In fact, this is an update, isn't it? Actually, Skip Barber Formula iRacing. You got another race report for us?
Yeah, we're halfway through this series now. Race 5 just was this past weekend. This is the Skip Barber Formula iRacing series. This is the one where you get to drive get in an actual car for a season for the Skip Barber season if you win this series. So yeah, big prize for iRacing, and they have a sprint race and then they have the feature race. So the sprint race was actually won by an eNASCAR Coke driver, Matt Busa. Took his first checkered flag win of this series at the Laguna Seca, was where they held the race, and Mikel Gatti, he won the main feature. That's his third win of this series, so he's in a really good position to take this championship. So the second half of the season is going to start off next week, and we'll get back to this series and see who takes that grand prize of this golden ticket race series.
check this out. Matt Busa got the Grand Chelem.
Very
He
nice.
started first. He finished first. He led every lap. And wait, he didn't have the fastest lap, so I guess he missed that.
Is that as
Almost.
big of a deal in a sprint race compared to a 24-hour?
Yeah,
The
not
win
quite
is
as
the
big a
better.
deal, but I'm sure he'll take it. Don't get me
It's like,
wrong.
hey, I got the Graham Shalim and Cub Carb. What is it? Carb Cup.
There you go. So yeah, this series is really heating up. The second half is just getting ready to start next week. This actually series, I two things about this series. I'm able to find on iRacing websites, the results week by week, and it does a good job of going through the results in the race. But I'm having a devil of a time trying to find series point series where people stand. So it's not listed on their website like it typically is for any of the other marquee series that iRacing has, like the Coke series has their weekly results and the cumulative point standings. But this one keeps the point standings off the page, and I'm having a hard time finding it. I'm pretty sure that Mikhail Getty is the one who's leading because he's had really good results all along. So I'll keep an eye out and see if I can't track that down at some point. As of right now, I wish I had better information, but I just can't find those results for the series standings.
Well, I mean, you might have spoke too soon. I mean, I went going looking for the Coke standings at enascar.com/standings, and it was actually showing last year's results, and that was only a couple of weeks ago. So somebody needs to update that for sure.
Well, this next one is pretty neat. Anthony, why don't you take this one? We got the subscription giveaway.
Yeah, I think Steve Myers was really enjoying the Coke race. So much, in fact, he put out a little thing to any truck or cup driver that tweets a pic of them practicing on iRacing, and they could get 5 free 1-year subscription codes to give away. That would be that'd be a pretty nice little thing to be able to get.
So he's referring to actual cup and truck drivers that are going to be racing Bristol Dirt this weekend. I haven't actually seen anybody take Steve up on his offer yet. But I'm sure there must be some drivers practicing.
Yeah, there's got to be a couple guys that are gonna get these codes to give away. So it'd be kind of neat to see what they do with them, who gets them for one, I guess. But
Now, is Xfinity racing dirt?
no, they're
No.
not even racing this weekend.
I see.
They're off this weekend, yeah.
Because I was going to say, I'm sure, Fast Pasta, Alfredo would have done it.
I don't think the spring race has ever been a triple header. I think it's always been just a double header at Bristol.
Well, it's on Easter weekend. They typically had off that weekend, so maybe they're just bringing in the cup guys and letting everybody else have some time.
Well, trucks are running.
Oh, that's right. You're right.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
they'll be home for Easter, the truck
Right,
guys.
that's Friday.
Yeah, I've been to Bristol a few times in the spring race, and it's always just been just 2 races. Hadn't been able to do all 3 before they started doing the dirt. All right, well, Kyle, how about this new IR series coming up?
All right, so the highly anticipated IR04 series, Greg West posted in the forums. For those of you who don't read the forums like me, this would be really good for you to hear. Greg West posted in the forums that by popular demand and beginning with week 5, iRacing will be introducing a second IR04 series running opposite hours of the current series. The iRacing forums Formula IR04 Challenge Fixed series will follow the same schedule, but have fixed setups while also allowing drivers the opportunity to race the car on an hourly basis if they choose to do so. This series, while short due to a mid-season release, will still carry 2 drops and will continue as a full 12-week series for season 3. I'm glad to hear that because when I need to go back and try to relearn that talent of road racing, this is what I go to, and they're a lot of fun. And it almost feels like, other than the speed, you're in basically an F3 car. That's really the closest comparison. I think they're 10 times better than the old Skippy.
So is this going opposite of an open series?
Yeah, they
Yeah.
alternate. So before this, you could only race once every 2 hours. Now it's every hour.
And if I'm not mistaken, I'm thinking it was all open setups. It wasn't fixed.
Right. This is the first fixed, I believe.
Correct.
And for them to add it in the mid-season, I mean, that's a little unusual. I don't think we see that very often, but they're going to start it on week 5.
The car itself, I mean, it actually has a lot of high demand. I notice whenever I'm in the server that I see, that number of people getting into those open series is pretty high, actually. So, like I said, there's a pretty high demand. I think a lot of people, though, just are wanting a fixed series as well.
It's always going to draw a little bit better numbers on both sides of the series. If it's not, my main cup of tea, those two main types of cars that I run, I prefer to run fixed just because I don't have the time or even want to spend the money on a set, right? If I'm going to jump in a random Kia or something, or even go run, quite frankly, something like the old Radicals.
Yeah, that's where hosted shines, though. You get in a hosted race, a lot of times they'll put up a set, or it'll be fixed with a set that's, the right kind of set.
Yep. Well, I will take the next one. This one's pretty neat. You can be on an iRacing broadcast. iRacing staffer Drew Adamson has announced in the forums that the next Thursday, April 14th, iRacing is showcasing the brand new Aston Martin GT4, the Honda TCRs, and the newly bodied NASCAR trucks. They're going to be broadcasting at 4:15 Eastern on the Michelin Pilot Challenge race, and then at 5:15 Eastern on the C-Fix truck C-Fix truck race. So the broadcast will be live and on the YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook.
So this just happened today. It was like a short notice, but it's pretty cool. I actually caught a part of the truck broadcast, the middle of it. I think at the time there was a Coke driver leading. Graham Bolin was leading the race. I'm not sure I recognize the names that were behind him, but it was good racing. They were digging around the top, actually. And then if you tried to pass, you kind of had to go to the bottom. And then they were doing slide jobs and stuff like that. So it was actually fun to watch I don't know, I probably watched it 10 minutes. But a good broadcast. It was by Drew Adamson and his team, in the iRacing headquarters. So high quality. I think they had Blake McCandless, one of the regular announcers from the Coke broadcast, announcing. I think James Pike was there. But yeah, it was pretty cool.
I kind of missed the guys doing the broadcast for Top Split on NIS Friday nights.
Yeah, I'd like to see that again, especially with this new car and how everything's playing out with it.
All right, well, Brian, bring us up to date on Porsche Super Cup.
Yeah, so this past week was Porsche Super Cup Series round 6. So they're just past the halfway mark in that series. And they were at Circuit Villeneuve. And they had a first-time winner again for the 6th consecutive consecutive week. Dwayne Warren was a breakthrough winner because he's never won any races in the Porsche Super Cup Series, but he takes the win in the feature on Saturday's race at Villeneuve. He led all 20 laps of the main event in the race, and Salva Talens finished second. Third place went to Diogo Pinto, who is just continues to just put down consistent runs, and that's what's kept him at the top of these standings for the season. So if you take a look at the points championships, Diego Pinto right now is in first place with 320 points. Kevin Ellis Jr., who's also been really consistent. He's had one win so far at 299, so he's 21 points back. And Sebastian Job, who was actually looking really good after last week, but finished 7th in this race on Saturday. He dropped back to 3rd in the final standings. So we're getting down to the final 4 of the season, and it still looks fairly tight. Anything can happen because it's so easy to get out of the points in these races if you just make one mistake and you're out of the points completely. So there's quite a few drivers who are still in this championship hunt as they head off to next week's race.
Yeah, probably the top 4, I think, are still within striking distance. I don't know if you're farther back than that, you have a chance unless there's trouble. But of course, that very well could be.
I think anytime you're figuring the math out on just a single points championship, it isn't just how far you are behind the leader; it's how many other drivers you have to pass as well, right? Because if you're gonna get back up,
Right.
on luck, it requires all 3 of them to have a whole lot of bad luck.
Yeah, especially when you're coming from 3rd or 4th. That's really hard to do. And by the way, next week's race, I forgot to mention, was at Spa. So one of the better tracks I think there are out there.
Well, while we're talking Porsche, how about this finish, Anthony?
Yeah, this one here comes from the Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge Canada. And this is a hell of a battle right at the end between Antoine Lacherite and Phil Bouchard. And these guys, nobody gives. And just some really good racing. I saw that they touched there a couple of times, but that was about it. And they finished like inches. The one guy's like just inches ahead of the other guy. But I like they're bouncing off the I don't know what you guys call those rumble strips, those raised rumble strips. Not quite turtles, but
A lot of good, clean racing. I mean, like you said, they just touch just a hair, but it's clean. I mean, it's not like a NASCAR road course like we've seen with the dinger and whatnot, where it gets all insane. These guys are racing like professionals.
Well, they went through what's called the Wall of Champions, right? And if it's Montreal, I might be getting it mixed up with the Road America wall turn, but that last chicane is hard enough to get through 1 wide. That's where they had the little bit of bump 2 wide, but still managed it clean. So once you get to that level, those guys can do it and trust each other to get through without taking each other out.
well, it's almost like synchronized swimming going through those turns. The guy on the inside there, he hits the that elevated part, and he's kind of on 2 wheels, and then a very quick second later, the other guy's doing it the other way, and he's on 2 wheels, and yeah, it was really cool.
Yep, Montreal is a fun track, but that last chicane there, that if you hit the curbs just a little bit too much, you're in the wall. That's one of those slightly very unforgiving places. Takes out a lot of cars.
Well, these 2 guys made it look pretty easy.
So, Brian, we've talked injuries before in iRacing, but it looks like Jimmy has one that I guess came from a real race.
Long Beach.
Yeah, this is former NASCAR champion and 7-time champion now, 7-time champion Jimmy Johnson. Of course, he's in the IndyCar series now, and he actually got an injury for a fractured right hand he suffered in a practice crash at Long Beach. So he tweeted some pictures of him getting ready to get into some practice at Indy for the Indy 500, and he's got his hand in a cast, and he's sitting in front of his iRacing rig with his broken hand, doing some testing at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. So really cool that that these guys are using iRacing as a way to rehab injuries when they couldn't get out on track otherwise.
Yeah, so Jimmy broke his hand, and then he, went out and practiced the next day and raced and whatnot, and then he wrecked again. And so anyway, he ended up with like a 2-inch screw in his hand. And I think this picture he took is the same day he got the screw, maybe the day after. And so he's like, this is rehab. I need to put my hand on the steering wheel and feel the forces and rehab this. I got Indy 500 coming shortly. It's April. May's coming. My first attempt. I'm not going to miss it. Pretty cool.
All right, Brian, you also previewed this one, and I already kind of given it a little bit of a read too. So apparently, we were talking about how hard Nürburgring is to learn the track, and there's some way you can use Crew Chief to kind of help you along with it, huh?
Yeah, was sent in from a listener from North Wales, so that's pretty cool. His name's Roland Wallbank. How you doing, Roland? Glad you're a listener. Really appreciate it. Well, he sent in, he noticed how we are talking about how difficult it is to learn Nürburgring, how long it is, how many turns there are. Well, he said that he posted in that there's a way in the Crew Chief that they have the Crew Chief app that you can record your voice on as you race and talk about where the turns are, and you can record yourself saying like slow, 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 or right turn ahead, or road tightens, or anything like that, and then you play it back as you're practicing. So, or you'll hear yourself give you these cues on the track as to what's coming up. So it's just like having the passenger in a rally car, where he's sitting right next to you and he's looking at the map and telling you where to go. And for people who learn better by audio cues like that, this is a really good idea. And it could certainly speed up the process in learning the track as tricky as the Nürburgring is, and long and complicated as it is. So a really cool idea, and I really appreciate Roland for sending this message in. It's a really good thing that he did there.
And I took a look on Crew Chief right now. It's in the same area in the bottom center where you assign your push to talk to Crew Chief. If you assign a button for talking to the Crew Chief, so at the very top it says talk to Crew Chief, and if you scroll down a little, you can see one that toggles record and toggles playback. And I definitely will use this the next time I need to learn any track.
It's kind of a
like
neat idea.
Saying, Mount Washington, this would be a fantastic thing to do. If you're learning that track, or even if you already know it better and you just need some reminders as you go up.
Well, I think that's the thing. I mean, if I had a rally style crew, spotter, giving me those kind of instructions as I'm going up the mountain, I think I could increase my time quite a bit, because you'd get confidence, and, you're getting the information ahead of time at the right moment to know,
Yeah,
Very cool.
I'm going to go ahead and call this the best tip we've ever received.
Yeah, so anybody can get the Crew Chief app. I think it's free, right?
It is.
Yeah.
Free. Yeah, I thought so.
Mhm.
I think they donations if you want to donate if you really like their service, and I'm pretty sure I did if that's not the case. So yeah, really cool. He also wanted to give a shout out to the Lotus 49 and Huskenveld GT communities. So yeah, those are great series, and as I was watching the eNASCAR Coke race, they had the commercials, and I see those guys driving around in the Lotus, and I was like, man, I really want to try that at some point. So yeah, I'm gonna check that out. Also, it's for Team Trained Monkey Racing, which is I guess his team that he runs with. So shout out to all those guys. Thank you very much.
Well, the neat thing about the Crew Chief app is you can just use it for what you want to use it for, even though it has all this depth to it. I mean, like I pretty much just use it for audio playback of spotter and crew chief. I play it in addition to the iRacing spotter, and I have all three of those basically in my ear. That's the only thing I use it for. I don't use it for anything else, even though you have all this functionality, just like Roland told us about. And there's much more to it. Like you can talk back to it, like David was alluding to, and other things.
Yeah, the very first time I was turned on to it, I used it to auto calculate fuel in sprint road course races because it would be tracking your fuel usage and give you the right amount of fuel when you would tell it fuel to the end, and boom, it would set your fuel to the amount you would need to take. I don't use that as much anymore because I've actually got JRT more fine tuned to do that than crew chief is. Every once in a while, Jarrett or crew chief would miss it by just one lap. And but it's very nice app. That Lotus 49 too, if you guys think going back to the 87 is going back in time, the Lotus is even more. If you get used to driving an Indy car or any of the modern F1s, it is such a just brain buster to have to use the clutch again in an old F1 car.
And to not have any downforce at all. None.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's a neat car. It's really difficult to drive, but I think once you get the hang of it, it's a lot of fun.
Contest time.
Well, we have the Falcon Tire Contest, and it's now the official sponsor of the GT4 Challenge, which is a fixed set. To celebrate the new sponsorship, they're going to have a special contest where you can win a set of Falcon tires. Just place the Falcon Tire Race logo in a race in at least 10 official races in 2022 Season 2, and you're automatically entered to win a set of the Falcon tires. So I guess if you do this, it doesn't matter if you have a trading paint or not, right? You just have to have it set within the iRacing software.
Right.
What a great Falcon contest.
That's
Yeah.
Falcon hilarious.
That's one of 11 contests. Okay. We just read off the first one.
One of 11 by them, or one of 11 that we're just happen to be covering today?
Well, on the page, there's 11. You read the first one. The second one is, I don't know if we want to read all of these, but I'm going to read this one. This is Apex Sim Racing. They're the sponsor of the Advanced Mazda MX-5 Cup Series. And you can win a $300 gift card from them. You have to run the logo. There's a Butt Kicker one. They're giving away 10 Butt Kicker Gamer Plus units. That's the Formula Renault 2.0 series. Same thing.
Yeah.
Got to run a logo.
Yeah. So this whole thread is basically a bunch of sponsors throwing up contests.
DLF
SimLabs is in here.
Reality.
Yeah. SimLab, Huskinville.
Sim Racing Studio, Pure Driving School, Ricmotech, Vertigear.
So if you like contests, go check these out. All you got to do is change from probably most of them is put the sponsor in the iRacing paint.
What a neat idea to have iRacing go to every one of their sponsors and say, hey, cough up some gear. Let's give it to the racers, let's have a giveaway, and I think it makes sense, if you run any of these series, just to go set the logos in iRacing, like you said, even though you're running trading paints, you just got to run the series at least once, I think, while running the logo. So, well, it's not once. It's actually, it says at
10
least
races.
10 official races in a season.
Yeah. So if you like that car, give yourself a shot. My tires are pretty new, but could always use a new set. All right, Tony, how about the submission time?
Yeah, that time again. Tyler Hudson's looking for 2022 Season 3 schedule recommendations. So submission forms can be found on the forums. But you want to have a say in this stuff, get them in.
Boom.
So, Kyle, what do you do when you see this next thing happen?
You panic, and some might say you drive through it or around it. Some might say you brake for it. I say find the best route possible and close your eyes.
If you actually watch the video, though, it's spliced in with some Matrix scenes. It's pretty funny.
Now, this is a post from the 24-hour race that we were talking about earlier, where somebody spun and eventually some other cars came in and they basically blocked up the track, and we got a parking lot by the end of this.
Oh yeah, that's and I mean, I don't know, you can't. It's a 24-hour race. You have to be a little bit more conservative, but when you're flying at 180 miles an hour and don't have any heads up that the track's blocked, you're not going to know that you're going to have to stop. So it's that's why real pileups happen on real highways where they're not actually even trying to race at 180 miles an hour.
Spotter is key. I digress a little bit. Like today I was racing Bristol Dirt and I was coming around the corner and I hear my spotter say a car down low, slow, the automated spotter. And because of that, I was kind of looking up ahead and I just barely missed T-boning a guy that was sitting there in the groove. Second and third place actually piled in and I missed him. But man, the spotter is key in these kind of events to try to miss it.
Yeah, and another thing that can give you a hint if you run the JRT dashboard, like on mine, I actually float it in the HP Reverb headset. Brian, you got to let me show you how to do this and start using it because it really is so beneficial. But the it'll tell you when there's a slow car, even if a caution hasn't come out. So it will let you know.
It'll like flash yellow,
on road
right?
courses. Yeah, it turns yellow and it actually tells you how many meters ahead it is. So you can see you can see how far ahead it is and when you're going to come up on it. And it will light up even before the yellows light up.
Yeah, I run that dash on my Android phone right on top of my Fanatec DD1.
Well, Brian, since I kind of woke you up, why don't you tell us a little bit about Will and Byron with the iRacing Dirt? Brian, try again.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So William Byron posted a tweet about how he raced a lot of dirt during the pandemic, and he's actually going to take that to the real track in the Gap Volunteer Speedway in Tennessee. So, and iRacing is going to be a sponsor. So he's got it's just the tailpiece. It looks like it's a modified. I don't think it's a late model dirt car that he's going to be racing at Gap. I've heard a lot of these NASCAR drivers in all the series doing a lot of dirt racing to prepare for Bristol, and so yeah. So William Byron is no exception. Yeah, he's going to be taking his iRacing dirt car out on the track.
All right. Hopefully you'll get a win. Special events are next. I'll take this one. Majors 24 at Le Mans is happening. I saw a tweet recently. He said he had 51 entries so far with 5 weeks to go. But it's June 4th, so you guys get signed up if you're going to do it.
Yeah, top 4 splits or so, I think, are being broadcasted and live cautioned.
And this is a good warm up for the other, the official 24-hour Le Mans, right?
Well, iRacing can't do an official 24-hour Le Mans still.
Well, we'll still do it
because of the marketing.
But,
right.
They dropped in a surprise one through a series last year. Haven't heard anything about them doing that.
24-hour endurance series, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Was that during season 2 or season 3?
mid-season 3, they just changed it,
No, I think they had it set up for the whole season because there were 6. They did 6 24-hour races at 6 different tracks. They just changed what's normally the 6-hour series into a 24-hour series that season, and I think that's when they did it was during season 3.
Right.
So I
Yeah.
don't know about any plans for that yet. We'll find out. Talk to some of the other guys that we ally with and try to get something together. I know I would like to run an LMP1 just because when I'm in that series, that car is so fun to drive for me. Continuing on the events, we got the Bristol doubleheader. Not going to read all the details. This is the one where they're running the trucks with a max of 2,500 I rating, and then it's open for the Cup car. They will run if there's more than 41 cars. They'll run heat races to set the field, and it's 500 for the truck win, 1,000 for the Cup win, and the entry fee is 15 for the trucks and 25 for the Cup car. And that, I guess, looking at the flyer, is on April 23rd is when they're going to do that race.
That's a Saturday, and I don't race on Saturdays anymore, so maybe I'm going to sign up for this. I'll have to look at it again. But this is really the final call on this race, guys, if you want to run it, because it's a week from this weekend. So yeah, let's pile in and try to help Ron out.
I have some decent success at Bristol, but so yeah, it's attempting.
So, Dave, you would obviously have to run the Cup race, but Mike, would you run the trucks or the Cups?
I don't think Mike can either.
Well, it says trucks will be I rating at
25,
2,500. Right? I'm right. Where am I? I'm at. Oh, that's my dirt rating. I have no idea where I'm at.
Let's just tank a couple races.
2333.
There you go. You'll be at the upper end of that.
Yeah, I'll run the truck race.
Yeah, you could get back in Old Bastards.
500 to win. Why not?
There you go. It's a fixed setup too. Old Bastards is 35, I think. 3,500.
All right, as long as it's after work, I'll have to check. What are the times? 7 p.m. Eastern. Ooh, I'm still at work. Ain't gonna do it. Podcast housekeeping. Don't forget the aftermath. Hey, what's going on with the aftermath, Tony?
We're on a bit of a hiatus right now. We're just taking a few weeks off and got some stuff going on in the background. But we should be back within a couple of weeks.
Okay, don't forget our website, iRacersLounge.com. Hey, the Discord as well. We're having fun over there. If you're in the Discord, you'd have a heads up about our wind sim project. So go check it out.
I'm really enjoying the interaction we're getting on Discord, especially because they're starting to come in and tell us about things specifically for the show. And if you get on there and participate in Discord and we catch something, we're actually putting it on the script. So you got ideas, that's a good place to become a part of the show, basically.
Yeah. Some topics on the show this week are from our listeners in Discord, and I appreciate those guys putting those up. We're also on the Performance Motorsports Network.
All right, Anthony, roll with the fantasy.
Well, personally, it was another week and another few hours spent at the bottom of the list. But Greg, which is not on the show tonight, led Martinsville, and he's not even here to be able to talk about it. Him and Mean Machines scored themselves each 249 points. It's a tie, but I don't know if we've seen Greg at the top of these lists yet. So good on him. He made some really good choices. And I see Tyler Williamson was able to get his name in there. We got like a 4-way tie for 8th place for the day. Yeah, I'm just I don't even know what the heck I'm doing. I'm not picking right. I'm just not hitting yet. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, Martinsville was a tough one. We got Bristol Dirt, and that's going to be likely another tough one. And then Talladega. So I don't know when it's going to turn around for me, if it does at all. Brian, how'd you make out this week?
I did terrible as typical. 22nd I was. And yeah, got my picks in on time, just barely. I just came home late on Saturday evening, and just in time to get them before the race started, and just did awful. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm actually taking some time these past 2 weeks to really think about it and try to put in some good picks, and I'm still doing awful. So I don't know what I ought to just pick names out of hats. I'd probably do better.
What y'all need to do is get your wives or daughters to just pick their favorite colors next week.
That's a good strategy.
Hey, I beat Chris. Barely.
Well, David, I ain't gonna have my wife pick anything or pull names out of a hat or pick colors or anything like that because she is kicking my butt. She's in 6th place for Martinsville, and she makes sure she does a really good job of rubbing it in. And I don't blame her because our other fantasy league that we belong to, it's a money-paying fantasy league. I'm leading the points right now, so I get to rub it in there.
Now, are you using the same picks in both leagues, though?
I was going to say, how can you lead in one and being terrible on the other?
Well, here's the thing. So this one here, the other one's more of like an old school one. So you pick drivers from groups and you run the same drivers all year long. So you pick it at the beginning of the year, throw your money down and just let it ride and see what happens. I've not ever fared too well with within that one. But yeah, this year it was kind of funny. We all eliminated Kyle Larson because every single person, I think there's about 20 of us that are in that fantasy league. We all picked Kyle Larson. So we eliminated one whole group of drivers, which is working really, really well in my favor.
Well done.
I kind of enjoy the other podcasts or radio shows that have just the host do pick'ems where they have to kind of go in an order, and then they still only get to use each driver once or twice, and they just pick the one. Those are kind of interesting.
Yeah, that's neat. Got some good. You definitely get some good talking points out of that one here. Definitely fun. I like the way we're doing things. I don't necessarily like some of the changes that NASCAR put in for this season. But this one here, the one that they've provided us, is definitely my favorite, just because it's a lot more hands-on than the other ones that I've done, and like the ones that you've described, David. This one's yeah, you got your garage pick, and yeah, it's fun even when you do suck.
Okay, the first hardware topic we're going to hit today is a new Derek Spears design. They unveiled their new DSD Matrix button box controller and posted a YouTube video on their channel giving an overview of the new product. I like this little design. It's nice and sleek and compact. It's got a rotary dial in the middle, which is probably more likely going to be what you use for brake bias. It's got 6 rotaries, 3 on each sides that both flank a 4x5 square button grid. And then you got
Matrix.
2 other big buttons at the bottom. Yeah, matrix or grid. So this gives you a lot of options in a really tight space. So if you feel pretty dexterous, this is pretty handy.
Yeah, that's where the name comes from. That's why I said it, DSD Matrix button controller. But I like how thin it is. I mean, just like his other button box he debuted recently, super thin, super lightweight, pretty cool. Now I looked at the website. This product isn't on the website when I looked. I think he just wanted to put up a video of his new design.
It's just a personal thing about it. I really do not like this at all. There's just looks like there's way too much going on. Even if you're not running like VR, like I don't think you could use that and run VR.
You could.
Just
Well, how do
looks
you
very
label it?
complicated.
Well, it's just 6 rotaries and then the big brake bias, and then it's almost basically like having a number pad.
But what would you actually do with the matrix buttons? I
Uh,
see what Tony's point is.
Pit configurations mainly. Pit configurations is that really is going to be the biggest thing that it comes down to. I mean, I've got a button for clear fuel, I've got a button for max fuel, I've got a button for fuel to the end, I've got a button that clears tires, 2 tires, 4 tires, I've got a button for fast repair, I've got a button for windshield, right? I've got a button that moves my offset. I don't have to go to the offset page, so I've got a
Well,
button for each of those.
you'd have to have it memorized. You couldn't. There's no room
Oh
for
yeah.
labeling.
Well, I mean, I've got it memorized now in the VR. I've got a button that changes if I've got JRT on auto refuel. I've got a button that changes how much extra fuel it puts. Do I want 1 extra gallon? Do I want 2 extra gallons? So yeah, there's all those different things that you can do.
My labeling system definitely wouldn't work on these. Way too small for Sharpies.
Right.
Yeah, I do like the knob though. That the one that you said can be used for brake bias, because I like it. I like that big knob that you can grab and turn and crank on, um, as opposed to the little smaller ones that are a little tougher to reach.
Though for me, when I'm in the oval rim, I still don't use a knob for brake bias because I don't use my paddle shifters. I have the sequential shifter. So my paddle shifters are actually set for moving the brake bias. And that's that's for your quickest adjustment that you want to be able to hit without taking your hand off the wheel.
I've heard of that. It's called cheating. Is that what it's called?
No,
I'm
nice try,
just-
but if it's literally programming a button is not cheating, and unless you have somebody to go into everybody's house and make sure they're all using the same wheel.
No, I'm just kidding with you.
Well, who might be cheating is people on GPU prices, Brian.
Yeah, so this was a YouTube video from PC Builder. He posted this video, and he's saying that the GPUs that have just been off the chart expensive are finally going to be dropping to the MSRP, the manufactured suggested retail price. So uh, I don't remember these things ever being MSRP from the moment they were launched. They shot right up through the roof, and all through the pandemic and the supply crunch and the chip shortage, these things have just been crazy expensive. So I don't know if this has anything to do with supply lines becoming better, or if maybe the next series is going to be coming out soon, the 4000s or whatever. But he seems to think that they're going to be back to MSRP pretty soon, if not already. I have not seen those prices just yet, so I'm going to keep looking just to see if they actually do come down to their MSRPs. But he seems to think that they will.
Getting closer, as we've documented, it's going down and down and down. So maybe this summer might be a good time to do a build if you've been waiting for it.
Yeah, possibly. I know I'm not going to buy them when they're inflated. Did we ever hear anything about that blackmail situation where they were trying to get him to drop the the Bitcoin mining blocks?
Well, Nvidia hasn't caved, as far as I know. They haven't. They just went on business as usual because they demanded them to put their source code out on the internet and all that. They didn't do that. So I don't know. I mean, I think we're waiting for the other shoe to drop. What are the bad guys? They threatened something. I forgot what it was, but Nvidia didn't do what they were told to do. So we'll see what the bad guys do next.
Well, we can move on from that and just talk about this Intel GPU delay. I'm going to throw this one to you, Kyle.
Yeah, so I don't know if Intel is a delay because they're having issues or if they're trying to build up the hype, but Paul's Hardware posted a video on their YouTube channel announcing a delay in the release of Intel's new desktop GPU, which doesn't surprise me. The first, go around with Intel going into the GPU, I had a feeling something like this might end up happening. So I don't know if there's bugs or whatnot that's delaying it. I haven't had a chance to watch the video yet.
Well, I think Paul says basically it's Intel being Intel. This is how they operate typically, is they announce something for a particular time and it usually delays. And this is no different. He's a little upset with himself for jumping on the bandwagon and saying that, oh yeah, Intel will have a product out by the end of the first quarter. Obviously, we're past the end of the first quarter, and that's why he put this video out, because it looks like Intel might be pushing this over to third quarter or fourth quarter. So that was another reason to perhaps wait to do a computer build, because is this going to be something that you want to put in your computer over an NVIDIA? Maybe.
Yeah, and at this point, it seems like you're going to be waiting, 6 months before you can even test these things, see how they stack up, really.
So we'll see on that one.
All right. The next thing that we have is the next level iRacing GT Elite review. OC Racing's posted a video reviewing on their YouTube channel of the next level racing GT Elite rig, asking, is it the ultimate mid-range sim racing cockpit? I popped open the video and just jumped straight to the conclusion, and they seem to like it for the price.
Yeah, I watched this video as well. This is not their flagship product. This is their mid-level cockpit, the lower priced one. And that's where the Elite comes in. That's the name Elite, which means their middle one. And so basically everything that was said was on, positive, except for the uprights. The uprights that hold the wheelbase are abnormally tall. And I think they make that on purpose, to accommodate people of different heights. Okay. But this particular racer is not a tall person, and he had the wheel, mounted fairly low on those uprights. And he indicated the uprights were actually in, his vision of the screens, and he literally blocking, his vision. And so that was almost like a deal killer for me. Other than that, I mean, everything else was fairly positive. A tiny bit of flex in the wheelbase, as well as the pedal area. He didn't notice it while driving, but when you watch video playback of him driving, you can see the flex. And that's one of the reasons I didn't go with Next Level Racing, because there's just a tiny bit there. It's not much, but it's there.
Yeah, the whole leaning thing is an artistic design, I think, is actually sacrificing a little bit of the stability, because you don't have the extra triangular strut that gives you that true triangle strength. It's just leaning by itself. It's only 2 slots wide, and it probably comes down to how heavy the aluminum is as well, right?
So,
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, Kyle. I was just gonna say, like, there's some complaining about how tall these uprights go. Just take a saw and cut them down. It's not hard. You put a little cap on the end of it. Wham bam, thank you, ma'am.
It's not a bad price, $700 without the seat.
So, like, I have the Next Level GT, which is the steel or metal assembly, not the 80/20 aluminum. And the way they designed it is kind of similar to this, except for the uprights for the steering wheel mount. It actually comes angled from the foot pedal area, and then it has a brace, tying into it into a triangle shape. And I tell you what, this thing is sturdy. I don't understand, what would make this the Elite if it doesn't even have that upright support like mine has. and mine was $900 with a seat. So I couldn't fathom knowing this now about the Flex and the 80/20 version of it, that I couldn't fathom spending $700 without a seat to get something that's going to have some flex. Where this thing, I've literally got a direct drive on it, and I have not noticed one bit of flex out of it. So they might need to go back to the drawing board a little bit with this one.
Well, and you said it yourself. The one you've got has that triangle support.
Yeah,
That's the geometrically strongest shape.
correct.
Now I want to throw a little caution out there. I mean, when I say flex, I mean a little bit of flex. But compared to SimLabs, which is zero flex, I mean, there is a difference. Now, if you look at the link in the description of the video, you'll get a link to the website where they show it $699 by direct. One of the pictures they show with the rig has a very unique monitor mount with a very widescreen curved monitor on it, as well as a second monitor up above with like timing and scoring. Pretty neat how that monitor mount, it actually comes off the back side of that angled upright. And I've never seen anything like it, but that was pretty cool. I like that.
All right, next up, Brian, we got the Moza Racing R9 base.
So yeah, this is by our good buddy Barry Rowland at the Sim Racing Garage. It's the Moza Racing R9 base and the GS wheel that comes with it. I think we've seen another review of the Moza R9, which is the 9 Newton meter version of their direct drive wheel base. It's one of the smaller ones, kind of comparable to the Fanatec CSL DD. So Barry tested it out. He goes through his rigorous process of running through it, and at the end of it, he gives his final thoughts. That's where I picked up at. Yeah, he was pretty impressed with this unit. It's a solid unit, very smooth. I remember him saying it was a really smooth operation. The feedback is pretty good for for 9 Newton meters. So yeah, it goes along with what some of the other reviews were saying, that this thing's a serious wheel to consider.
It is. I mean, but he did say the words. There was a hair notchiness. You know, you could feel that digital notchiness. Notchiness, is that a word? Notches. Just a little bit.
So like granularity. It's not smooth.
Yeah, and he had trouble dialing that out. He had really good things to say about the road wheel that comes with it, and it looks pretty darn solid. The way the wheel attaches to the base, rock solid too. No play like Fanatec's crap QR thing that has play in it. This has zero play in it. So there was a lot of good things to say about it, but that notchiness kind of threw me off.
I think your dog agrees.
Yeah.
All right, well, we're jumping into a little of the software side, Mike. How about the Stream Deck app that we've got here?
Yeah, Lauren's Specs Nidger on Facebook posted, hey, if you always wanted a Stream Deck but don't want to spend that money for the hardware, you can get the same options on your phone or iPad with his subscription software with the same options. So basically, it's an iOS app that looks just like Stream Deck. And then you put it on your iPad or whatever, and boom, you're in business. 26 euros per year.
I'm curious to try this because I've got a Stream Deck and I've got the iRacing plugin for it, and I'm curious to see how representative of each other they are.
Okay, he's got some pictures up here on the Facebook group, Sim Racing Builds, of it in action. I mean, the buttons, the design of the buttons even looks the same, Kyle.
Yeah, they look very similar.
Are the buttons fixed, or do they have a screen on them where you can change what button does what on an actual Stream Deck?
You can change it however you want. There are limitations though with the Stream Deck on what you can and can't do. I'm hoping that he's going to continue to work on that to improve the user experience.
But it's not where you have to stick a label on it. It actually has like a digital display or something.
Yeah, it's got its own digital display of tires, fuel, all that.
Can you page on it? Can you like change pages in the middle of an operation, or is everything kind of stuck and fixed?
Yeah, I mean you can change pages. It just depends on how you got it set up on the Stream Deck app itself or the software itself.
The reason I ask stuff like that is because that would be really hard to use in VR.
Yeah,
Now-
it definitely would be because you really got to look at what you're doing or know exactly which one you're pushing.
And if that can change, eek. And if it's just on a tablet, you can't feel the keys. You have no idea where you
Right.
are.
Exactly.
Right. On a flat surface like that, you'll never be able to differentiate one button from the next. But it still is pretty cool. I kind of like the idea of it that you can use a touch screen from a phone or an iPad and just customize it. Obviously, if you're not racing VR, it's something you'll be able to see as you look through it. So I think it's a pretty decent idea.
Yeah, if you're racing on a budget and you need a button box and you have an iPad laying around, I mean, this is a cheap solution. When I first started iRacing, I used an iPad button box. I used software called Rockcat, I think it was called, and it worked. But it was clunky because like there's not real buttons. I mean, you have to look it down, you have to look at what you're pushing, obviously, and so forth.
Yeah, because like for the longest time, before I even bought an actual Stream Deck, I used the app on my phone and my iPad for a Stream Deck, and upgrading to get a Stream Deck to actually feel the button made a world of difference. I don't really have to even look at what I'm doing.
All right, this next one's quite a wall of text, Tony. I don't think you're going to read it all to us, but tell us about this rig review from a listener.
Oh no, I'm reading it all word for word. Prepare.
All right. Okay. Everybody
No.
that's watching live, enjoy the rest of us take our nap.
Listener Heath Ropp sent us this, and it's an upgraded rig that he's done. And he's first off, he says, "Hello, my dudes over at iRacers Lounge. First, let me start by saying thank you for putting out my favorite podcast each week and putting so much time into making it a great show." Well, thank you, Heath, for being a great listener and sending us some content. So we have some stuff to talk about. That's great. So he's just upgraded his rig from a GT Omega with a Fanatec Club Sport 2.5 and V3 pedals. He's got himself a proper 80/20 rig, and he got that from racingcockpits.com. And he's also upgraded the Fanatec DD1 and the Heiskenveld Sprints.
He's got a nice looking game computer sitting on the back, and as well as a Super Nintendo sitting up there.
That would be a regular Nintendo, and
That's
he's
the
got
original NES.
That's the NES, yeah.
and he's got Days of Thunder hooked up to that bad boy. So he's our
Nice.
people. We're in good
Actually-
company here.
Well,
Do
how
I
about
lose,
the
do I lose my
posters?
gamer card? Calling it the wrong Nintendo?
Well,
Yes, you did.
he's actually got like the OG without the door broken off on the NES. So it's old, and he's had it for a while.
Well, you can't have that door getting in the way because you got to be able to blow all the dust out, right?
I was going to say,
That's
remember the
right.
days of always having to blow on the cartridges?
It was like
Yeah.
a daily thing.
Well, he's got himself a nice little setup. I'm sure he is extremely happy, especially with the the direct drive wheel, the Heiskenveld pedals. I love that tray on the back, being able to put everything up there.
He's got he's got a full on full size NASCAR rim, full oval rim, right? I'm pretty sure it's got the NASCAR brand in the
Yeah.
middle. And is that the same one you've got, Mike?
That's the Fanatec one.
Okay.
Yeah.
The
He's
15
got a
incher.
Derek Spears button box on the right hand side there.
Yeah, that's the exact same layout I've got on the right side.
And he's
And
also
he got a
said,
new seat. Sorry, Tony.
So-
Got that new NRG Prisma seat. And then Mike's got one like that now, right? I had
Yeah.
one before, and I sold it to Tyler. Tyler really likes that one too.
It's
A little-
good seat.
A little hack I do, instead of setting the big red button, instead of setting that for engine start, I've made that my tow button for everything.
That's how I have mine. That's my toe button. And I use the 2 toggles right above it with the covers for my ignition and start.
Yep.
So does he got the iFlag LEDs on the top and bottom of the screen, I think?
It looks like they're just regular
I think they're just
LEDs.
highlights. Yeah, because they're 2 different colors.
I
If it
see.
was a flag, it would probably be the same colors.
Yeah, he mentions in
Um,
his write-up that he's got a butt kicker hidden underneath there. He said it was giving him some troubles, but he's got that part all figured out.
yeah, you got the Butker Gamer Plus. That's one of the new ones, right? Those higher output ones that they just released.
Well, about that, I mean, Will Ford had put up a video that he was having trouble with it. They sent him one for, make a video about, and he couldn't get it to power correctly. Like it was having power problems. So, I'd be careful until we hear more about those.
Well, he also says that like Will Ford had the issue of it being loose from the clamp that it comes with. So he just said he took the clamp off, drilled out the holes a little bit, and just used some standard M8 bolts to attach it to his rig.
Yeah, between what this listener is telling us and what I saw Will Ford post, I would not be buying the new butt kicker at this moment on their pre-order until this is sorted, because it didn't sound good with some of the things I've heard.
Well, this is a great little rig you got there, Heath. Thanks for sending this to us, and thanks for the extremely detailed write-up that really really helps us flesh things out. It's nice when you get them like that.
And apparently he's a man after my own heart. He's been relegated to the basement.
Yeah, unfinished basement.
That's right, unfinished basement, just like me, right next to the AC unit.
Well, speaking of Will Ford,
Yeah, his next one is on the Boosted Media channel is a review of the Astrotech SimSport Forte load cells. In fact, he calls it a detailed first look. Mike, did you get to give this one a watch?
a bit. It's of course an hour long. I got through parts of it, but the gist of it is the Forte is their less inexpensive version of these Invitica pedals. And so we've been hearing and seeing about Invitica for a long time. They've had some great marketing. They've gotten their pedals out to all the reviewers and whatnot. And Will had already reviewed those pedals, and we've talked about them on a previous show. But now they have these cheaper Forte versions, and he basically goes through the differences of how they're designed and what makes them a little bit less expensive and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm just bouncing back and forth, and there's one scene where he's got two sets lined up right next to each other.
Right, he's basically comparing, yeah.
Yeah.
So if you're interested in these pedals, I mean, this would be a must watch to decide, which one is the right product for me.
I can tell that it does have the software kind of similar to what Sim Coaches has now, where you can shape the throttle the way you want to help improve your performance. I have, for like short tracks and road racing now in my cup car, I have it where my throttle is slow early and faster later, so that I'm less likely. Actually, it starts fast, goes slow in the middle, and then spikes at the very end. It makes it easier for me to not spin out when I'm exiting the turns. But the biggest thing I was running into at Bristol Dirt this week was wanting to keep the throttle on. If you completely go off the throttle, your car becomes just a missile, right? It won't turn anymore for dirt racing. So you want to not come completely off the throttle. So one of the things that I did was I went the other direction, and I have a real sharp increase so that I'm getting 50% throttle when I'm actually only pushing it about 25. And that's allowed me to get through the corners better without having to worry exactly where 50% throttle is. So that software is always very handy if any pedal comes with it.
You'll just switch back next week, though, right, to something more normal.
Yeah, I can save up to like 5 different profiles. Like in the sports cars, I just leave it flat because the traction control takes care of that part. And I think this next one, I bet Mike could probably handle this one.
Or Kyle. So
And Kyle, yeah.
Kyle and I have been working on the do-it-yourself wind sim, based on Will Ford's video as well as some others. And Kyle, you printed up a couple pieces and sent them to me that I needed, and I had all the other parts. I got the soldering done finally. I had to get a magnifying glass that was 10 times so my eyes could actually see what I'm doing. Thank you to Tony, who taught me how to solder via video. That helped a lot. I don't think I would have gotten through it without Tony's assistance there. So it was a team effort. I got to say that. I mean, if I wasn't on a team, I don't know if I could accomplish these kind of projects. I mean, to have people that I can rely on, that bounce ideas off of, and like I was stuck on a couple times in this project. We have a thread going in Facebook Messenger. I could go in there and get some answers, from somebody or some ideas. And yeah, so I mounted mine up above behind my fourth monitor, above the triples. They kind of face each other, and then the hose comes down over the left and right monitor from above. When I first got it up and running, I hit the test button. I would see the fan turning. So, I'm like, hey, the fan turns. I got power. I'm good to go. So I sit it down. I open up the sim hub. I get everything going. I turn them on, and I put my hand up to it. I'm not feeling really wind. I can kind of feel wind blow around, but it's not like blowing. And I'm like, what is wrong here? So eventually I went into the kitchen and I found some confetti out of a gift bag, and I taped some confetti to the side of the hose, and I turned the fan on all the way. And sure enough, the confetti got sucked into the hose. So I had actually installed the fans freaking backwards, and they were sucking. And so I've created the first sim vacuum, I think. Kyle, what about your experience on putting them together?
Well, I had the same experience as far as putting them on backwards. Luckily, I caught it fast. As soon as I hit the test, I noticed that same as you, I was getting a sucking and not a blowing. So I unbolted the fans from the cones and turned them around and rebolted them. And then I kind of just set them up on the desk for a minute and just tested to see how they do. And that's when I was like, I need to figure out how I'm going to actually mount these things. So I ended up mounting mine under the desk and then coming out basically right behind the steering wheel. So they kind of blow like on my chest and not so much in my face where they dry my eyes out. And that also so it's not blowing right into the microphone as well. And then it seemed to work great. I did notice some tweaks that need to be made within the SimHub software. So I just went in, turned like basically the power rating up to 100%, because even the software comes at 50% as soon as you set it up, and it works good. I mean, you feel it, but you just don't really feel much. But as soon as I turn up to 100%, I could really get the fans blowing some really good air around. Adjusted the speeds on when they are at minimum speed, when they're at maximum speed. Other than that, I didn't really have any issues. The soldering was a little bit of an issue, even though I am younger than you, Mike. I still got bad eyes, and it was hard for me to see. But I ended up having to kind of mess with the solder a little bit to get it right. The one other thing I did notice, though, is in Will's video, it shows you to set the hertz at 1600. And then the second video that he made for it said to set it at 60 hertz. So I did it at 1600, and it worked fine for about 5 minutes. And then it was intermittent, it would pulse. So then I went back to the video, went down to 60 hertz, and then I couldn't get any fan movement at all. I think I got very little. So I kind of dabbled around with it, and I took it down to 1000 hertz, and that's where it was like the sweet spot. I don't know if it was overheating the board or overheating the fans or overworking them, but once it turned down to 1000, it was perfect.
So I'd like to get all your settings in SimHub. If you could, Kyle, screenshot those and send them to
Yep.
me. I just want to see if we match up. I feel like I'm not getting a lot of wind out of the hose. I'm getting some. It's subtle though. It's not. I wish it was more. So that's the first thing. I thought I was going to get a little more wind, but it might be the software I don't have set right yet.
Yeah,
So
I will do
that's-
that.
All right,
One thing I
thank you.
did notice though with it is the fans. I don't know if it's just the tubing or the fans or what, but they hum pretty loud even with headphones on. I can still, if I tune out the sound of like the game or whatever, I can still hear the hum pretty good.
They are loud. That was the next thing I was going to say. Now, Brian warned us about this, but you know, I also had to change how I'm doing the sound. So if you know, I've always run my engine sound through speakers. Well, immediately these fans were disrupting that. So I ran the engine sound now through the headset, and it seems to be a good balance. Now the fan noise to me, because it varies depending on the mile per hour, it almost feels like the wind noise that you would hear while you're in a race car. So I'm actually not, I'm okay with the noise at this point. It seems to be part of the effect.
Yeah,
The next
I
thing
can
you need
agree.
to do though is put a windshield in front of you so it's blocking all of the wind.
Well, and like the left, so I went around Dover as a test last night. And when you go into the corners, the left one will go faster than the right one. And vice versa if you were turning right. I mean, so you kind of get an effect that way too. But then when you're going down the straight, you know, it gets faster the faster you go. So it's pretty neat. I'm kind of liking it. I still don't know if I'm going to keep the hoses where they're at, you know, kind of from above. But you know, it's only been a day since I got this thing together.
Yeah, see, I never noticed. I didn't, I guess, pay attention to the left and right as far as turning which one was blowing more. So I'll have to pay attention to that tonight.
Yeah, and the confetti
Mike.
is kind of neat to put on there to just get a visual of what's happening too.
But it's not boom confetti, right? It's whoosh confetti.
Well, so the fans, I can't believe the fans are the way they were backwards. I mean, even when you go on Amazon where I bought them and you look at the picture of the fan, they show a picture of it and you would think you're looking at the front of it, but in fact, they're showing a picture of the back of it. It's just an odd design, the way it's designed, but yeah, never assume that you're putting it in right, I guess. You know, I should have tested it before I put everything together.
Mike, question for you there. I see you have those fans located next to your tower. Are you getting any heat off of your tower? Is it like pulling in hot air and blowing hot air to you, or is it pretty cool in that area?
It's pretty cool there. I mean, the computer blows the hot out the side or the back of the computer, basically. But this is on the side of the computer, so really there's no air, you know, there's no warm air or anything. So no, it seems to be okay. So more to come on the Sim Wind project that I switched from the vacuum project.
All right, let's finish up the Friday Open Nashville, or no, not Nashville, NASCAR iRacing series at the Display of Excellent Racing Martinsville races. We'll start with Mike. You wrecked.
Yeah, wrecked out. 5 minutes damage. Two cars in front of me. They hit, walked up the track. Everyone plowed in. Got the 5 minute damage fixed. I was 9 laps down. Rolled around to lap 130. Got totally wrecked again. 8 minutes required. I finally parked it.
It looks like Tony had a P4. He says, I think I broke the caution record of 27. Stayed clean in the top 10 for most of the race. He went from 8th to 4th in the final green-white checkered as the leaders wrecked on the white. He says he thinks many guys went without pitting the whole race, but even fresh tires, it was a pain to try to pass. And then I guess I'm next. P19. I had engine damage from a blocked track, and which made it even harder to pass. Plus, the race control was terrible at Martinsville. We had reports of people losing wave rounds, and there was actually one case where I benefited from it. I was literally in 25th place, and we had a caution where nobody pitted because it was one of those only 2-lap runs, and suddenly 15 cars or so are just sent to the back of the line, and it just shuffled
For
the
no
whole field up
reason.
for no reason. Just shuffled the whole field up. None of them pitted. None of we paced a few laps, and suddenly they all had to go to the back. It was weird. I benefited from that, but it's still, you don't want to see that kind of a bug. Later, a similar late warning on a guy caused him to jump to the outside, trying to let a lot of people go right before the green comes out. And he goes all the way up to the wall. So our only option is to stop on the track or go. And I ended up getting a black flag, which put me a lap or two down. I did get a lap back, but the damage was just killing my corner exit. So the best I could do was P19.
Yeah, the wave arounds are broke. The even at Bristol Dirt, I mean, if you're, let's say you spin out and then the caution car comes out and it's going to pick up the leader, but you're right in front of the leader, it'll keep you behind the pace car. So then you would think at one to go, it'll wave you around. It doesn't. Then you're coming to green. You're starting the race as a lap car in front of the leaders. It was insanity.
So is it safe to say that Martinsville and iRacing and in real life is broken?
Yep. The current gentleman's agreement, when that happens now, that guys have been going ahead and agreeing to do, is have the true leader lay back away from the pace car a lot, just hold the whole field back, and basically let the lap cars get a little bit of a head start and go late, so that they at least get kind of half of a wave round, and they're not immediately racing with the leaders at the very beginning of a restart.
Good idea. But I mean, iRacing needs to get this crap together. I mean, we're in the middle of the season. These rules shouldn't be changing.
Yet it's just terrible anytime somebody is suddenly told to pass or let a car by 1 second before it goes green. I mean, that just ruins a race. They've got to have some way to detect that you didn't actually pass the car that you're supposed to be behind, right, within a reasonable amount of time. Because any car that comes out on the 1 to green lap, that comes out late when the pits are almost closed, that car should be where it is, even if there's wave around cars and penalty cars. If they come out, if in a real race, when they're fixing their car up and getting damage fixed and stuff like that, and they come out, they don't get to go line up in the middle of the field. But what will happen is a 15th place car will be getting his damage fixed, but he's still on the lead lap, and he comes out late, and suddenly every lap car and penalty car has to let him go.
Yeah, they need to get these procedures in place. I mean, the wave around part, the leaders starting, or the lap cars starting in front of the leaders. I mean, this is easy stuff. I mean, they got to get that fixed. Sunday Open, Kyle, P14.
Let's see here. Yeah. I participated, and it wasn't the best of races. Started mid-pack and just ran a strong race. Got to P3 with 5 to go and just spun on my own and brought out a green white checkered and had to restart P14 and just stayed there for the last 2 laps. Unfortunately, I got too excited with being third right there, and we restarted. We jumped actually the restart at like turn 3 almost, and I just tried to lay it down, and it just back end came around on me. That's all it happened to me there.
What, like trying too hard because you're trying to
Oh
win?
yeah, I'm trying to get up there and just give the old bump and run to first place.
Man, I feel you. David, you put nightmare.
Yeah, I didn't finish the race. It was a lot of cautions, kept getting X's, One of the cautions, I slammed on the brake so hard to avoid the wreck that I actually spun sideways because I had a lot of rear brake, hit another guy. I had to apologize to him and also went into the pits. That ended up putting me like 2 laps down. I got the 2 laps back finally towards the end, but my car, or I was at 16X, so I didn't want to race anybody. Right. I was just trying to finish the race, and we're coming to one to go, and I'm like, I know, I'll drive through the pits and drop to the back. Black flag, and I just quit at that point.
All right, Sunday fix. Kyle, P10.
Actually, me and Mr. Tom, we both ran this race, and it was quite entertaining. We both kind of had a back and forth race. I want to say it was actually a good run for the most part. I started P12 and had a rough race getting caught up in everyone's mess. Had to serve a drive-through, went 2 laps down, and finally got the lucky dog with about 40 to go, and just slowly worked my way back to the top 10. Glad Martinsville is done for now.
Yeah, Tom was P14, ran strong, but was just on board the struggle bus, getting spun by others. I skipped fixed. I had to cook dinner for my wife, so I missed it.
It really would just be nice to see the community settle down at Martinsville. In every split, it was just impossible to get long runs, you know, and you just see it constantly happen and wreck 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 and wreck. And I could probably loop that on the edit about 500 other times. At some point, enjoy just being able to make laps instead of wrecking every 2 laps. But and it's not the same person every wreck, but you can't. And the same thing is going to happen at Bristol. You just can't race it where you expect to make a pass every time you catch somebody.
Yeah. Just because you have a run, you don't have to take it. Well, let's talk Bristol Dirt. David, P7.
Yeah, I was okay with this. I almost got a P5. We had one of those last lap mishaps or in the area that dropped me to 7th, but that was all right. Spent the whole race in survival mode. I was like the 28 car dirt racing. This is the only time I do it all year. So I'm happy with the P7. My goal again, there were some times I would catch people and I would try to tiptoe around them instead of going full send. And I think that's one of the reasons my car ended up staying alive.
All right. Tony Rochette, P8. Remember back when you were a kid playing with your Matchbox cars in the dirt? That I just had more fun than Mudcake 6-year-old has ever found. Found myself up front, top 3 most of the race, watching lap cars nearly kill the leader half a dozen times. Final restart in P2, leader disappeared, took first at the green, lost it in turn 2 at the white, and spun off the guy that took first in turn 4 before the checkered. P8.
Did we already read Tyler's?
No, you can read Tyler's.
All right. Tyler, P7. NIS was fun. Finally had a fun time in a series race. Started in the back as usual. Got dinged with the 2X early, but made it through the wreck. Kept moving forward to the top 10. It became a caution fest, so restarts were super important. He got doored with about 50 laps to go, and it, as a chain reaction, had him in the middle as a sitting duck, but he survived. Caution after caution for the green-white checkered that brought him home with 7th with only 4X. He had a blast after some fine running suggestions from the team. Thanks to Fossey.
All right. Yeah, he was loving it. Me, P2. P2. I can't believe it. I qualified second. I ran top 5 all night long. No mistakes. I never could get to the front, though. P2. So that's Phoenix, Richmond.